I'd like to call this board meeting to order, June 6th, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. First on our agenda is Innovate and Grow, and that will be Laura Arnold with New Skills of Youth, Interlocal Agreement, and Aviation Instructor.
Okay. Good evening. We're just going to visit the partnership that we have going with Bardstown City Schools, LaRue County, and Marion County. This is a partnership that came about through the New Skills for Youth grant opportunity that the district served as the fiscal agent last year, and all the districts came together. So this agreement is taking us into the second year. This is the agreement that is bringing on the engineering program that will be at the Area Technology Center. And once we complete this agreement, there is going to be another round of funding that we'll be able to apply for, but we have to have this agreement in place to be eligible for those funds, just to support that partnership and the pathways that will be implemented through the program.
And what are those pathways?
So this year we've added the engineering pathway. We're in the process of revising the health sciences pathway, and then it also includes electrical and construction pathways.
What kind of construction?
So it's going more of a commercial route because we have the pre-apprenticeship program, and so your commercial contractors worked with that to create what that apprenticeship program looks like. So it has like some floor and wall type things, an intro into carpentry, but kind of going more of a commercial construction route.
Okay.
So this first set of agreements, when is that cycle done? Is it done after the 1920 school year?
Mm-hmm. So the agreement covers the 1920 year. In the agreement, it does say that if a district does want to pull out, they would give a year's notice, just so other districts would know, because we are in a partnership with this. But the agreement says, we'll have a steering committee for the school, which we already have. It might revise it a little bit. It recognizes that we're doing the engineering program as a partnership, and then that we have a coordinator. So that's the role that Kim Hogan has done in the past year.
And so then the next round, when you talked about applying for that next round of funding, and that would be for the 2021 and forward?
Yes. Okay. That's what I'm assuming.
Okay.
It'll be coming through, JP Morgan Chase will be the funder, but it'll be coming through the Department of Education.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So we will take that further in account on our next general regular session on 18th. Okay. Next we have the aviation instructor.
So this is another partnership. This program has come available to us through a local donor that has made connections, opportunities, and is helping fund where our students can go to the Bardstown Airport. It will be an internship model where they will go daily and they will be building an airplane. So we have a picture that it'll look somewhat like this airplane, not that I'm an aviation expert, but the funder will be providing the kit. We're also in the process of trying to find who the instructor can be for that. So the kit will be provided, the airport has already provided hangar space where this will take place, but this partnership is with Bardstown City Schools, Bethlehem High School, and Nelson County Schools. What we will be coming to you asking for are funds, which are a part of the workforce development budget, to help fund an instructor who will oversee this process, because it does need to be someone that has mechanical aptitude, has a history, appreciation in the aviation field. So we will be asking for probably around $22,000 that'll be part of workforce development to fund that individual.
Was the instructor, I thought there was a preliminary lead person that was coming out of retirement.
Well, they haven't retired.
Yes, so we've had several partners involved in this conversation that are well known in the aviation world that have helped identify someone that they feel will be great to do this. He has taught numerous people, has done mechanical stuff, flies himself. So we're hoping to get to meet this individual next week, because he will probably be employed through the airport or through the Kentucky Pilots Association, but we are being asked to put some funds on the table since we do have a donor providing a lot of other opportunities with this.
I would have to assume that there are going to be more kids that want to do this than spots available.
So we have 10 spots available, and we already have Amber Godey and David Mudd.
And when you say 10 spots, you're talking about the Nelson County schools, right? 5
Yeah.
from Nelson County, 5 from Thomas Nelson.
Yes, so it'll take around 1,000 hours to build the airplane. And we are probably going to have the opportunity to have 20 students there total among the 4 high schools in the community. So we'll have 10 taking part in this for the first year. And Amber, David have been working with counselors, principals, having conversations with parents. We'll actually be meeting with parents Monday and Tuesday individually, and students talking about the opportunity to ensure that it's an appropriate fit for the student and that they're interested.
So there will be a criteria that those students have to meet.
Yes, and a big part of it's going to be going through that orientation discussion piece with a team here.
Okay. Cute airplane.
Sounds fabulous.
It's really we're very fortunate. I think it's a great example of some of the trust that the community has taken within the construct of workforce development and partnering with schools. And as a group, Bardstown, Nelson County, and Bethlehem, I think we'll be coming together over the next few weeks to do more with this. We're on the front end of communication on this conversation. We will continue to expand that communication.
Okay. Of course, no action is required, so that will be an issue brought up in our next meeting too. Okay. Thank you, thank you. Next is our master bail schedule. Jessica Sadowski, I never can pronounce your name right, but that's close enough.
No problem.
Yeah.
So all of the schools, with the exception of Foster Heights, have taken their bell schedules. This is just the start and the end time with lunch, and for the elementary schools, recess is tied in there too, and has had them approved by SPDM. And the next step will be to have the bell schedules approved by you all at the next board meeting. The only change from last year is really with the academy. They're going to have elementary bell schedule, upper middle school bell schedule, and a high school bell schedule. I think the only one linked right now is the elementary, and the other two will be on there soon. So,
What's going on with Foster Heights? Is that the one you said wasn't?
His SPDM is going to meet
Okay,
before the board
then-
meetings. It's the date. That's
Yeah.
Nothing,
Okay.
just logistics. Okay, any questions about those?
Oh, ma'am.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Next, Jesse, he's with our technology plan.
Okay, so this is yearly technology plan. We're going to do a 3-year plan this time. This is required by the E-rate program, so where we get our money back on our WAN connections, our fiber connections between the buildings. It's part of a requirement of that program that we do a tech plan. I want to share with you like the preview, and then this will be out there for you guys to review. You can look at it, you can go into it deeper if you want, but for this meeting I'm going to share with you the highlights of the big things that we're looking to do. So the first thing is our server migration to, it's a platform that Microsoft has. We're trying to remove our physical servers in our data center down there, put them on a hosted platform so we don't have to power them, we don't have to cool them, we don't have to keep them on site. Somebody else can help us with management of those servers. Chromebook one-to-one continuation, that is the 3rd, 6th, and 9th graders. We're going to purchase again Chromebooks for those. We're getting quotes on those as we speak, and we'll continue to do that for the foreseeable future as we roll out Chromebooks to students. Classroom technology refresh, you saw that at the last board meeting. So that is, we're going to do a 4-year refresh cycle on that. So we're buying roughly 80 to 100 of those setups per year for teacher classrooms. So we can ensure that teachers don't have old devices in classrooms. Student help desk growth, we're going to try to actually grow the middle school and high school student help desks, and we're going to give it a shot stepping it back down to even fifth graders in elementary school. And you'll see this in a minute, we're changing the structure of the tech staff, so we're going to be in the buildings more, actually be based out of the buildings more instead of as much based down here. So it should give us some more time to actually sit with those kids in student help desks and help them with repairs and show them how to fix things, and maybe get them into even more than just repairing Chromebooks and stuff like that. That's the hope, that they're doing more. If you could scroll down a little bit, Carl.
We'll do more and give it a shot.
That's right. So co-op, student help desk employees. So I'm trying to come up with a better term than student help desk there, but it is descriptive, what we're doing. But we'll go from 2 to 5. We have 2 working during the summer, and then during the school year, we're going to add 3 more. So we'll have 5 actual paid positions that are help desk employees. So students, yes, they are students. 3.5 hours a day during the school year. So it's like a co-op, just like they would go work for anyone else.
But clearly not the fifth grade. I mean, they're student tech.
No, they're
leaders.
seniors.
Okay, so the
Co-ops are
seniors.
seniors.
Okay, that's what I was
So
like.
they gotta be able to drive.
We've had,
Yeah, how they gonna get
we've
there?
had major value creation from those roles.
Fifth grade would be.
For 2 of our,
I was gonna sign my kid up, but I'm saying to get paid.
No way.
And you may even know some names, Cody Arnold.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, and
I think it's a great forum.
Those 2 kids this year were, they were regular employees. We gave them keys, we gave them access, and they rocked it. They just went out and did their thing, and it truly was like having 2 additional employees on the tech staff. They were-
Fantastic.
I know Cody was doing stuff on Sunday evenings at times.
Yes.
Go figure.
Yes, yep. They were a big help. So we're going to try to expand that to 5, and what that will allow us to do is, as we change the tech staff structure and we're out in schools more, like if the schools that I'm assigned to, I'll have a student help desk worker, co-op worker, student, senior, that will be assigned to me, and I'll work directly with that student, coach that student up. That student will probably coach me up, honestly. They teach you a lot, for sure. But so that's the goal, is everyone also gets a student person that they can work with and get things done in their local schools. And then the district-wide printing contract, we're in those negotiations right now. Right now, it's looking like we're going to be able to pull off a significant reduction in cost there. And I don't want to quote numbers, but it's going to be significant. So we're trying to streamline the printing fleet and save money where we can, but still give teachers the abilities that they need. So we've got a lot of room there to make some good change. I've already talked about tech staff structure change. I think I got a little bit more there, Carla, if you can scroll a little bit. Oh, it's just on the tech staff structure. So that's our plan. As you go down through this, you can go down and look deeper. It's broken up by some areas of emphasis. So you'll see rough budget numbers tied to some of these things. I didn't know if anybody wanted to go through that during the working session, but again, this will be something that'll be on consent agenda for the next board meeting, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you do want to dive deeper into it and see what's going on.
this is an annual, every year.
Yeah, this is the first time we've done a multi-year plan, so we're starting to get some bigger picture items on the tech plan versus previous years. So this time we felt like we had enough big picture items that we could do a multi-year plan. Any
I like
questions?
the way it's broken down.
Thank you. This is actually a new format that the state just came out with, so it made it nice. It really did.
They use the Google Doc?
They did. They did.
It's true.
Yes.
What'd you say?
The format of this came from the state, just like that. So
Dana, are you involved?
And I uploaded it with a Google form. So I went to the Google form and uploaded it as PDF, so the state's jumping on board.
My work, cloud-based storage, I don't use Office 365. I use my KDE Google Drive as my storage space.
Catching on. Any questions about the tech plans?
And so this is good through 2022, which means unless there's big, major changes, something that either gets dropped, that's a
Like,
major
if we
item.
start the
already.
classroom technology refresh and just fall on our face, like it just is a disaster, we will revisit the tech plan.
And so then there may be a revision to it that we would have to come back and look at and review at a later time. But if things kind of go as planned, we really won't have to do a tech plan approval until this time in 2022-ish.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse.
I think I got the next one too.
Yeah, you do. This is under dedicated to our community, data security.
Okay, so this is a presentation that we are required to do once a year before August 31st. And if you go to slide 2, Carla, this is actually the legislation that states that we must do this every year. So we have to let the board know that we have reviewed the guidance of the Data Security and Breach Notification Best Practice Guide. That is a guide that KDE put together. I'm sure Bob Hackworth is probably 98% of that guide.
99.9.
99.9. Bob's a security guy at KDE, and they provide that to districts in order to kind of give them some guidelines, some best practices on some things you can do, things you should do. And we'll get into a few more things, more like figuring out when you've had a breach notification, things like that. So let's go on to the next slide. Oh, so if you want to see the actual guide, I think it's 12 pages. I linked it in here so you can pull it up and look at it and get a feel for what's in there. And this is like how to identify and what you have to notify on when you think you may have a breach. So you have to have a couple factors. I won't read those to you, but you can really distill that down to, did you lose something or potentially lose something that can do harm to that person? It's got to be linked with some kind of account number, social security number, taxpayer ID, it's things like that that also link it back to a person. So is there can you reasonably determine, hey, well, you could actually use this for identity theft, or you could harm that person with the information. And I'll tell you where we fall on this is if it even smells like a data breach, even a little bit, I call Bob Hackworth. I call him immediately, and I'm like, hey, here's what we've got. Here's what we think we might have potentially lost or someone might have had access to. And he walks us through what we need to do, and he's a great resource. He really is. So 98% of attacks rely on social engineering. That came from a vendor that we actually use called KnowBe4. So we use a product, yes, right there is a cool graphic. So this is top click phishing tests from KnowBe4 for this year. And I think it's funny that the free pizza one's so high. People want their free pizza. So, you get a fake email, and like one we've actually sent one out that is from Pizza Hat, not Pizza Hut. It's Pizza Hat. So you'd be surprised how many clicks that one gets. So what happens is, bad actors will send out these emails making you think you got a free pizza, and if you don't pay attention, you click on it, and then the next thing you know, they've installed malware on your computer, and they're starting to dig. And so we try to train our employees to not click on those types of emails, to take that extra second to look at that from email address, or to hover their mouse over the link. So what happens is we try to send out 2 a month, and we'll have an email go out the people that click in it, click on it, get put in the group, and then we send out an email after the fact to that group. We're not trying to, make fun of anybody or anything like that, but we tell them, hey, here are the 3 or 4 things in that email that you should have seen. Take an extra second before you click on it to try to protect student data. And honestly, it's probably a little bit more of a bigger deal to protect you at your house, the employees using their computers at home, because you generally have admin rights on those machines at your house. So when you click on them, you can get some pretty bad stuff going on. So go to the next slide. These are some measures that we use right now. Know before phishing training, that's the one I just described to you to use. I think that's the most effective one that we have. But then shout out to Jessica's team. Renee and Jill do a really good job in Infinite Campus of only giving the rights that giving you rights to what you specifically need in Infinite Campus. If you don't need access to the information, they don't give it to you. So that's another measure that we use. We try to only give people what they need to see. It kind of limits our exposure, things like that. Any questions about what we do? Or?
Just historically speaking, has Nelson County District had a data breach in over the past 10, 20 years?
We have not had an official breach like that we've had to send out a notification for since I've been here 7 years. We haven't had to send out an official notification that I'm aware of, that I was involved with.
That's the thing that Bob Hackworth helps with a lot too, because sometimes,
Bob's awesome.
Sometimes a district may think that a data breach has happened, and so then Bob will talk the district through. So what was it? So, what kind of access would that provide? And he'll walk them through it, and probably about 75% of the time it's determined that, no, there's not a data breach, based upon what Bob helps that district think through.
And I can give you an example of one that we almost had this school year. Laptop was stolen out of a person's car, and we're already going through the process to do notifications, all this stuff, within hours of it being stolen. And I get a call. The police found it in someone's backyard in the trampoline. They were going around hitting every car in Bardstown that was unlocked, grabbing stuff. A neighbor's lights came on, and they just threw the stuff down. So we got the laptop back. There was no time for them to have actually access to any information or anything like that. So
The big thing though, that 98% happens through social engineering.
Yes.
That is the big way that any sort of data breaches are typically happening. It's not hacking a computer, it's hacking the person anymore. And just as educators, we're trusting. So if someone sends an email if someone sends an email that says, hey, I need this data, and it looks like it comes from the superintendent, a lot of times, it's my boss, and I'm trusting, I'm a school district employee, but if they stop and they look at it and they see it's not coming from wes.bradley@nelson.kyschools.us, but it's coming from whatever at, google.edu. Okay, well, you can tell then that's not, really Wes Bradley that is sending that email asking for information. And districts are really starting to find that happening even more than a true, I'm stealing data, I'm stealing a computer, I'm hacking a computer. There's been a few instances like that in Central Kentucky where people have tried to change direct deposit forms by doing that. But
we moved to where you have to bring in your direct deposit change form and hand it in because of that.
But the ones that I've heard of that was attempted in districts, there was a person in payroll that looked at it and was like, yeah, that doesn't look right. And so it was through things, whether that district was using the know before type of scenario or whatever, just training the employees on what to look for as far as phishing attacks.
We just don't know that.
Yeah,
It's as simple as it
Especially
is.
for you over out.
There
Only
it is.
respond to their.
It's gonna,
That's what I'm
now my
saying.
mom
If you
even
don't know
knows
them, you
which
don't know
ones to
them.
avoid.
I don't open nothing.
I don't get as many phone calls from mom anymore.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, the next we've got is a paving bid and Kevin Manning.
Yes, we would like to request that y'all approve a RFP we want to send out for doing some paving and recoding of our parking lots in the school district. And they're lined up where we're going to do the work at and how many square feet.
Basically, we're just asking to bid it out.
And we actually asked if you could approve it tonight, so it gives us 2 more weeks for people to, to get it done during the summer if they can.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'll need a motion that the board would currently accept bids for paving for the 2019-2020 school year for the following projects: Costas Creek, ATC, Bloomfield Elementary, Bloomfield Middle, and Nelson County Early Learning Center. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay. Mr. Jackie made the motion. Do I hear a second? Okay, Mr. Dickerson, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Okay. The next, Mr. Bradley, Superintendent Bradley, you've got the next 3 items to go.
I'm stepping in from Ms. Owens on these 2.
Ooh, and Director of Community Centered Programs.
Obviously, I can't replace Amy. However, essentially, annually, the board approves a Fidelity Bond and submits to the Department of Education by June 30th. Our agent of record is preparing the Fidelity Bond for July 1st, and it will be attached prior to the June board meeting. And just so you guys know, I did a little research on this, and the Fidelity Bond is essentially insurance protection that covers us for losses that we could incur as a result of fraudulent acts by other individuals. I'm not don't know as much about insurance as I need to, so we had to make sure we were clear on that. So basically, it's just approving that we would have a Fidelity Bond at the June 18th board meeting.
Okay, that's a bond on all employees or central office or what?
So this covers us in the case that there's fraud.
Who's that, us?
There's the district.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It covers any employee in the district,
It covers the entire district.
all district.
Covers the district.
It'll cover everything that your regular insurance does not cover, as far as regular insurance is written to exclude dishonesty, crime type things.
Okay.
This will cover the dishonesty, crime type things.
That's what I'm saying.
So everybody that's
We
covered
have
under
to
the other
yes.
will be covered under this.
Okay, now when you bond, well, if you don't mind me asking, Rebecca,
Oh, I
something.
I've had a,
When you bond individuals,
Mhm.
does that take care of, is that extra on top of that? Or is that something totally different?
It's extra on top of that, specific for something.
As in Amy or anybody that handles anything financially? You're
They would,
bonded.
well, yeah, they would be covered by this too, though.
They would be?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, because you know where I'm going at.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Next, Superintendent, a bond depository.
the same annual process. So this item will be approved by the West Banco Board on June 28th and would then be sent to the Nelson County Schools to be signed. This item will be submitted to Kentucky Department of Education after approval from the Board of Education and the West Banco Board prior to June 30th.
Because that's the end of the year, yes. Okay. Anybody got any questions? Okay, no action will be taken at this time. And the next one is Director of Community Center Programs.
So we've talked a little bit about this. I shared this document, hard copy, with a couple of you over the past week. This is really exciting. You go to the next slide, the top slide. Go right there. So this is, I think, something that we as a district team this year have learned a lot about is that as we continue to think about how do we create that which does not exist. And this little quote up here, when we think about the future, we hope to create something that really doesn't exist. And that progress can take two forms, horizontal or extensive progress, and the reality is for us to create new things, we're going to have to think about some of the work we do and some of the positions that we have in a new way. We talk about going from 0 to 1. It forces us to create something that we don't currently have, which I would argue we did at the beginning, about a year ago, when we had the Director of Community Health, the Director of Leadership and Learning, Director of Workforce Development, in the sense that we had to create something that would allow us to build a future that we really aspire to. In the same way, the work for family caretaking has shifted and really taken on that priority lens. That is pretty much across our district. We're thinking, what do these jobs really entail? What do they mean? And that will allow us to create a future that doesn't exist. So the next slide talks a little bit about traditional assumptions about staffing and impossible staffing assumptions. And you could, obviously this is not, we wouldn't have trademark on impossible just yet, but this slide here really talks about some of the unique tensions that we face. And I think government is obviously guilty of this structural tension requiring compliance with the past. As we think about the future of staffing, not only in our schools, but in our central office, we really want to think about how are the demands of our students' future driving decision-making about the way we staff our work. And this comparison between traditional assumptions and impossible assumptions are what drive this conversation. So, long story short, we're looking to develop a position. We've developed a position that really is focused on resource streaming and supports for schools and adults throughout the system. So we would be combining the current, what is called a federal and state program specialist position, and based on a retired position. We have two positions that are retiring over the course of the next 6 weeks. And that is federal and state program specialist and human resources administrative assistant. And we would like to take those two positions, combine them into a position that's going to really be an expert in resource streaming. They would be looking at these 6 areas, but would really predominantly be focused on federal state programs, after school and extended day programs, professional learning opportunities and grants for teachers, as well as preschool and early childhood program development. That would be an initial starting point. So our reality is, as we think about this conversation here, which we've been having for the past few weeks around community-centered constructs, and how do we create opportunities for our schools to grow. So this is really our conversation we've been having with our district team and schools around a community of caretakers, community-centered collaboration, working together, community-centered experiences, which include student leadership, workforce development, the way we think about school and curriculum, and then our community partnerships. It takes a lot of different resource streams to bring this to life, but the reality is there's also a big blind spot in the money that's really out there that we don't yet know exists because we've not had anybody actively pursuing that. So that's really what the focus of this shift is. In order to bring some of these things to life, we need to continue to create an opportunity where people are studying that. I think the 21st Century Grant at Boston is a great example. I know that was at a few different schools in the past, but that grant was something that really provided profound experiences for that school. If you think about some of the work going on with workforce and some of the potential out there, there's just going to continue to be ample opportunities. And the more people we can have that are studying that, the better. So from a cost perspective, it's really probably going to be, this is estimated based on an average cost of position, including benefits. Depends on who the employees were at any given time, but essentially it's a wash. The job description is attached to the slideshow, and this is basically an overview of what that would look like. So it's basically taking what we had and creating something that we don't have. So that's that. So there's no action at this time. Really, I would like to, over the next few weeks, if you guys have any questions about it, any recommendations as you look at the job description, you can come back to it at the board meeting, but I feel like it's something that is a great opportunity for us to just think about how we go from 0 to 1.
What's the timeline from 0 to 1?
So
Just the idea.
the first time we go from 0 to 1 is the first time we have a new resource stream that didn't exist. So, August?
A lot of stuff here, a lot of, you and I've talked about it, there's a lot of
So it's a big
going
job.
on.
It's a
That's
big
what I'm
job.
saying, there's a lot here for one person.
We agree. We agree. I think our reality too is, next year,
Don't know that.
this central office is gonna be literally shifted. People are gonna be coming upstairs, people are gonna be moving different spaces. Our copy room is gonna become a shared workspace. We're gonna be having a family caretaking and welcoming center that's right up here in front, the whole front right side of the building. We'll be focused on that. We'll have really a teacher leadership center right over here. That's going to take us probably a year from now before all that comes to life fully. But we also are in the midst of learning a lot about our needs. And the work of the finance team, the human resources team, our student information team working together this year, we see that there's going to be opportunities to continue thinking it. And I would go so far as to say, and I had this conversation with Rebecca, as a board team, if we're not coming to you annually and saying, here are some opportunities that we see to go from 0 to 1, then we're not thinking creatively to support them. In the same way that we did, with the backpack leaders at the schools. We met today with the backpack leaders at the schools and the principals and the counselors. And that whole infrastructure there was changing the conversation today with 45 individuals at Heaven Hill, yesterday at Flagler Hospital. So I see this as really another example of that. And I think truly, we talked to you guys earlier this year about job descriptions. We need to come back to you every year with meaningful conversation about job descriptions, or all this is going to be lost in areas. Doing that once every 15 years or every 10 years is not going to allow us to grow. It's all connected to this.
And so, and I know we don't use these titles, but, I'll call them the C-level people, CIOs, CFOs,
Right.
COOs, and so on. I mean, that's what we have with Chase and Jessica and Laura and all them. This position, this would be another, what we would, in a business world, call a C-level kind of.
On the index, it would be just below them.
Okay.
In terms of pay scale. But it would be from a need and from a amount of work. It's just, it's all about hiring the right people.
Right. Well, and you feel like that if the right person is found, I mean, the phrasing of going from 0 to 1 or just going from 0 to 0, meaning either stay the same, do the same same and be 0 to 0, or finding someone that can take it from a 0 to a 1, actually looking at things differently, possibly whether it's making it more efficient or whether it's bringing new ideas into it and actually executing upon them and making them successful.
Yeah. Right. I mean, we can work on the assumption that the federal and state program construct is in and of itself a very big job.
Mm-hmm.
And the job will demand experience with federal and state programs, significant experience. So,
I would argue that we go from 0 to 1. The minute that we approve this, we go to maybe from 0 to 0.5.
Yeah, okay.
As soon as we go from 0 to
Yeah.
0.5, when we approve this consolidation of the two jobs and realize that what we're doing is we're taking the old and we're making something new, allowing the district to do that.
We're setting it up for some
Then
success.
we, yes,
Yeah.
then when we put the person, when Wes puts the person there, so we don't hire, when that position is filled and they begin to work at that position, then we go to the one. I think there's probably a two, and that is 6 months down the road when we start seeing the benefits of this one person versus the old. And it's not that the two people that are being replaced just did half a person's work. They did a different job. So this is new. I think this is very
Yeah.
similar to what we did this time last year in new positions.
I like that thinking. You're calling it, once we create the position, we've set in motion
Yes.
the work towards getting 0 to 1, which means we're somewhere along that continuum.
That is what we can control.
Because there's a lot here. And
I'll tell you, that job, that conversation, the job description is what we think is going to be kind of the minimum starting point. But the reality is, if we hire a person that's great, they're going to do things that we can't anticipate.
Kind of some of the same thing we've experienced so far just this year.
Right. We went from aviation classes to building airplanes.
Or I heard before the board meeting, we went from 30% students being registered online at the start of last fall school year to right now, we're already sitting in the mid-70s of all of our students already being registered for the fall school semester, and it's not even August yet.
Yes.
okay. Here. Next is put people first, and that's Robin McCoy. She has alternative school eligibility, transition and purpose, mental health contract, strategic safety plan, and code of conduct.
All rolled into one. Fun stuff, caretaking and safety. Okay, so earlier this year in March, I came to you just with the same information about purpose and eligibility for our new kind of vision for alternative school. Can I get the clicker, or is there? Oh, never mind. I'll just.
You can get the clicker.
Do you want me to give you like a cue, like a? Here we go. This is really smart. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. It's more fun to give it. Okay.
You can throw some.
Right, just start throwing people while it's switch. Okay, and so we're still along the lines of what we were planning in March, going with 3 different programs. Program 1 being more around supporting students who have adverse childhood experiences and major traumas in their lives is a K-12 program. Program 2 being really for students who are seeking opportunities outside the traditional learning environment for one reason or another. I'll remind you on eligibility in just a second. And then those 2 names, of course, will come into play. We hope not to call them Program 1 and Program 2. Restore is our ISS program for our middle and high school. And so I shared with you kind of the outcomes that we saw coming out, our belief systems in this new program. We talked about this in eligibility for student profiles, which has not changed. You can go into that of kind of what that looks like in Program 1 with severe adverse childhood experiences, Program 2 and the eligibility for kind of really the non-traditional student, in addition to the 45-day placement for harm toward another student. So that involves fighting, it also involves drug use. And then the Restore just being with our ISS program. And so what you have not seen is the transition caretaking process. So what does that look like? I realize it's a little hard to see it now that I see it up there. But we will always begin with a referral that's being made through a Google Doc. We started this last year and kind of have been making modifications to it. Every student will be scheduled with an interview with the family and host school. So at the table, it's a caretaking meeting that takes place with as many caretakers as possible. Family members, past teachers, new teachers, counselors, principal if needed, to go through the interview, and the student. The interview data is also utilized by the school staff to create a learning profile for the student to see which program they could be potentially going into, Program 1 or Program 2, what will best support their needs, and also how can we support their needs. We know that we partner with a community mental health agency for our behavioral health at the academy. And so what does that look like for that student will happen during that interview and collecting of that data. Then we'll do the student transitions for placement. We will monitor the progress and they will go through a phase program through each program. And then hopefully the ultimate goal of any student that comes to our alternative school will be to celebrate success and to go back to a home school. We do know, we just know that sometimes that's not the best placement for a child. And so we take that in consideration. But the hope, especially with elementary, is that we're giving them coping mechanisms to be able to work through their issues and they could return back to their host school eventually. Now, it may take a few years for them to be able to do that, but our hope is never to keep a kid in the alternative school for an entire K-12 education at all. So that is the alternative. What has to be presented each year is the purpose, eligibility, and transition process. And so we'll be looking for approval at the board meeting. So no action at this point.
I know whenever we first saw this, was it a couple months ago maybe? Program 1, Program 2, are we eventually getting some moniker? Or,
yes, so we'll hope to do a naming and branding through the next year. So a new principal has been hired and they're thinking through what that looks like for branding. We really want to have an identity at that school. Even though it's not our hope to keep a kid, there needs to be an identity there, that they're embraced in this caretaking experience that's within that school.
Well, because it's their school.
Absolutely.
While they're there, however long, 1 week, 1 year, it doesn't matter, it's their school.
Absolutely, yes. Any other questions? Okay. Do you just want to keep rolling through the next?
Yes.
Remind me which one's number 2.
So all the way over to the far left, 19.6, yeah.
Do I need to do anything on just?
No, you don't have
I
to do
just
anything.
click down?
There
Okay.
you go.
So we partner right now with 3 behavioral health agencies. We've been partnering with them for a while, so we just want to continue those contracts with Astra, Communicare, and JP Interventions. We just don't have it linked here.
You know, when you do exit and you come back, it's there.
It's
Yeah.
okay. It's there on rolls, I think. Oh, there we go. Okay, and we just want to continue, so we're going to ask your approval to continue those contracts at the board meeting. Any questions regarding that one?
I do.
Yes.
My concern is the mental health part of this aspect. I don't know how to put this gently. What kind of accommodations are we making for those students that need mental health or have issues, other than meeting with them once a month? Is there some kind of guideline, or is there some kind of...
So they don't just, what do you mean, like the therapists coming into our schools and meeting with them? Because they form their own treatment plans and we offer a space, but then, so there's 2 sides to this. One of them is we offer the space for them to meet with their clients. And it can be weekly, bi-weekly, it can be every other week. It's based on each student's individual treatment plan. However, there's also collateral services that happen. So, and in the model we're going to next year, which is at the school level care teams, is that you will have these therapists. Collateral means that you're just meeting with the therapist. They can bill that time when they meet with school administrators to talk about treatment plans. And so they're meeting in their therapy sessions, and then they're also meeting with care team individuals, counselors, school psychs, frisks, whoever needs to be involved with that conversation to say, okay, how can we support them when the therapist is not here and they're having an incident or being exposed to something, and what can we do in the classroom? And so how can we support either through a de-escalation or a redirection of some kind? So collateral meetings through care teams, and then also the treatment plans that the actual agencies provide.
Okay, and that's what my impression at a state board meeting was, that each individual school would have a mental health person there. Are we not doing that?
So I think when did this meeting happen? Are you talking about the
Last
Medicaid?
month, they talked about...
Medicaid is the big thing, is that it's now been approved for school-based services for mental health. And so a lot of schools are thinking about how do we pull in a mental health professional for just our schools, and they can bill Medicaid. The only part of that is that those people cannot see private insurance. So there is a population of our students who would not be able to be seen. So I do see us going in the direction perhaps of a mental health professional that we don't pay for, but Medicaid, they bill Medicaid for, or if eventually we get approval to bill private insurance, but that's, I think, a next step that we have to first see what this looks like with the Medicaid bill
Well,
first.
and the mental health issue too, that's been tied with Senate Bill 1.
It is.
For the school safety piece, of course, we've heard the legislature talk about Senate Bill 1, which is a great idea, a great approach, trying to address the issues. We've heard State Department of Ed talk about it as well, but there's no funding that's been provided for it. And
So there was no funding, and then the new Medicaid went into effect, so they're thinking Medicaid is going to fund
Yeah,
these
'cause that just
positions for
passed.
you.
but they can't fund 100% of them
They
because
can't
of
fund,
what you
yes,
just
the
shared.
private insurance
Yeah.
issue. So,
And it's not just families that maybe can take advantage of Medicaid, that maybe need to take advantage of the services.
right.
I mean, it could be
A
one of
school
your
employee,
children,
yeah.
it could be one of my
Right.
children. yeah.
Mhm, absolutely. So we just have to think about how that works, and so we are increasing. We have seen a drastic increase in our numbers this year in seeking mental health supports, both with Communicare and Extra. And so as that continues to build, they then foresee us eventually doing mental health professionals in our buildings. School counselors also serve a lot of the needs with mental health, so they have a priority to serve that mental health need too.
But school counselors are not mental health people to me.
They're not mental health professionals, but they actually are trained, they can offer therapy. Now, it's not in our scope of practice that we offer therapeutic services because it then takes it away. So we serve about 300 to 1 in our district, and so it's hard to offer individual therapy for an hour for a kid with a school counselor, so that's why it's never in their scope of practice. But they are actually certified to offer therapeutic services to a kid. It's just not in our scope of practice.
Well,
So.
that's what I'm
Mhm,
going
yes,
after is
yeah.
we
I
need
hope one
mental
day,
health. Yes,
yeah.
we need mental health
Mhm.
people here to help
I
these
think-
kids.
We agree. I think, too, part of this model around community-centered construct, at the start of it is really that culture of caretaking that is also about empowerment of the student, to be involved, have a purpose, be engaged in work and real-life experiences, be engaged in purposeful caretaking practices, whether that be a house family at Boston or houses at Oak Age. And that's all part of this construct. I say that to say the mental health professionals are only one part of the larger ecosystem that we're working to create.
Right.
And the end goal is that students are driven by a sense of shared purpose, a sense of individual purpose, and they feel supported by the humanity around them. That's the ultimate goal. Within that construct, there's always imperfection. And we know that there's still going to be outliers. But we feel like that drastically improves our opportunities to connect with and care for all kids.
I mean, that's nice, it really is. Well, I'm telling you what I think. That's nice, but we've got issues. All schools have issues.
We still have outliers.
Yeah, and that's who I'm concerned about.
You're always
too.
going to have your population of tier 3, but I think what I'm trying to do, like with caretaking, is that when you provide universal supports, you then get people interacting with one another. It's why we believe in mentoring opportunities, house structures, care and
I
connect,
understand.
and connecting people, because then you will kind of narrow down your tier 3, but you're always going to have a tier 3 population that needs
Yeah.
intense support
Yes,
that we
support.
can offer.
Yes,
Yes.
that's the one I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
And so our school counselors are really being driven right now in caretaking to focus on tier 1, tier 2, universal, down to group focus, and then that tier 3 being a mental health professional.
What percent of our students are Medicaid eligible, do you know?
Gosh, I don't know on the top of my head how many are. I mean, free and reduced lunch numbers, but not Medicaid eligible.
I would think there was.
You know, it's funny. I would think so too. But then we run into the private insurance problem a lot, and surprisingly, so I don't know. I don't even know if we track any of that information with Medicaid eligible kids. And
I think everybody in the state will know. As
Oh,
of
I
like,
do
this
too.
Oh,
all just happened in
absolutely.
the last few weeks. So
Yes.
a week ago,
Yeah.
I got an email from the commissioner. This has all been going on really it happened in the last 5
Very quickly,
weeks.
yeah.
So,
And it's a good move. It's a good move for supports. It's just how many eligible students do we have?
I think it was just okay last week.
I think it was approved last week.
To me,
yeah.
that's just a key piece of data moving forward
Yeah.
to know.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Ready to move on? BJ is away at a national training for school resource officers, or he would be presenting this. So you may have questions that I hope I can answer, and if not, he can always offer some support later on. And so when BJ was hired, we decided to do a Safe School strategic plan to say, how are we meeting the needs of kids physically, mentally, and there's this piece I know around caretaking, but really physically, how are we caretaking for our kids? And then there is a student connectedness, because the #1 prevention of violence is student connectedness. So there is a piece of his job that he does. So when we started, we began the conversation, let me present, on standards. What do we want to see across our schools to keep kids safe? This is our #1 priority, that they feel safe coming to our buildings, and that they are safe. And so there are 3 standards that we have focused on. Secure campuses and buses, which is supervision and security. So that goes into secure access points, safe visitor management, security equipment, and active supervision. And so all 3 of those kind of lay out detailed what our expectations are for every building. And it goes into the double entry vestibule that they're talking about at the LPC, and that all of our buildings have that, fall badges at all of our doors, visitor management, that we have a protocol at every single school that matches, security equipment like our delayed egress fire alarms that we like to pursue, and the camera systems, down to active supervision and what it means to be supervising students both on large scale and small school atmospheres. And so what that training looks like. Then standard 2 is emergency management and crisis response plans. And so there's district level and school level plans that we have to do and we want to do to ensure that we have threat assessment protocols as well as crisis response under our belt. And then community-centered safety. And this goes into our partnerships with student connectedness and first responders, that we really have powerful relationships with first responders, mentoring experiences with kids, and the student caretaking experiences that we're doing. And so those are the standards. And then in order to reach those standards, there has to be a safety plan in place to be able to get there. We are not there. And so how do we get there? And so there are 3 priorities that match about secure campuses and buses, community-centered responses, and community-centered partnerships. And so the strategic plan goes into what is our goal to be able to get to meet those standards. So the first one is the secure access points. And so you all can read through this at a later date. I'll just kind of summarize. But this goes into really how are we physical barriers to our school, the vestibules, the fob badges, the hard corners in our classrooms, and delayed egress fire alarms. We will establish a safe visitor management system and the fact that we have that protocol. The standards for school safety regarding active supervision and what that looks like, the training for our staff. We would also like to pursue an additional school resource officer by the year 2021, if at all possible and funding allows. Senate Bill 1 does ask us to do 1 at every school as funding becomes available. So there's a plan slightly to get there. We go into emergency management and crisis response plans and the fact that we are looking to create a critical incident guidebook for administrators that tells you how to handle situations within the building regarding law enforcement, child protective services, behavioral health institutions, those kind of things. Schools revise all emergency plans. That includes what to do with a tornado, a death of a student, all of those things. Then the community-centered safety. We will provide a caretaking experiences for students during the course of the school day. Our Care and Connects, our house, our mentoring structures. The educational learning experiences expose students to the dangers of modern crisis. So BJ went around to each school and had a group of students to kind of tell him what's going on in the school, what did he see, kind of surveying them. And they said, we really want more information about what these things are. For example, vaping was a huge issue, and they said, students don't know that when you put marijuana into a vape, it could be 10 times more powerful and thus result in the death of a student. They just don't know. There is this level of ignorance around there. So it's not always 10 times more powerful, but you can put too much in there, it becomes 10 times more powerful. And thus, we've had results where a student is in trouble because they vaped with marijuana that's too powerful. And so, being able to expose our kids to educational materials regarding these things. Also, BJ does quarterly ignites with our first responders. We want to be on the same page. Our first responders are just as a part of our community as BJ is. And so he works with them hand in hand to be able to increase their knowledge of things and our knowledge of what it looks like in the law enforcement world. We also want to work towards not only kind of reassessing our quarterly ignites, but also allowing them to meet on our campuses next year, to ask our first responders to connect with our principals in our buildings, to say, this is through a mentoring program with their students, or hey, this is what during fire drills we're doing, lockdown drills, and we want law enforcement to be here and our kids to see that we're here to support you and we're here to keep you safe instead of creating a fearsome atmosphere with law enforcement. And so this does not require any approval, and so this is just for your information as you look at what we're moving towards with keeping our kids safe in our schools. Any questions?
I think we'll continue to see these things play out more concertedly over the next year, because we really now have an intentional plan in place that took us
Right, that's true. We
9 months.
put the standards, then we put the plan, this is the goal we're working towards, and over the next couple of years, we'll be working on implementing it in its totality.
I think one thing that's important here is, in this world of school safety, there's a lot of fake news. This is authentic and really a thoughtful process that came together through people thinking critically, like BJ, with local law enforcement, with schools, and with experts around the state and country. And we didn't have a knee-jerk reaction as a district to just say, well, what are they doing over in Fulton County or in Fayette County, and take what they're doing. We worked with a number of districts and worked internally to use our own judgment to make a plan that is going to be much more meaningful for us as a district. So I think that's really a credit to BJ and his leadership, and Robin and her leadership, and the collaboration that they've been doing around school safety. This is real news.
And too, with our community law enforcement agencies, they've been a huge part of this to help us think through. One of the initiatives, it's not on here because we've already done it, was Fast Track that you all approved earlier in the year, is our law enforcement agents said, when we arrive to a school, we don't know the layout of a building, and we need to implement something that will tell us how to get to a student as fast as possible. A student, a staff, whoever it may be. And so through that law enforcement partnership, we were able to say, yes, we can do those things for you because you're arriving on the scene in a major crisis. So it's been a good thing working with law enforcement in the community. Any other questions? Okay. And then we'll move into code of conduct. The code of conduct, I've given a summary page that you have, so, because if you started going through the book, and you're more than welcome to, here is the old book, and there's lots of red, and red is the addition, and the strike means that it's been changed, and the red is the addition. And so there's a lot of changes that you can walk through. The new format is actually here that you can view, and all of the changes have been made. So I want to summarize the changes for you guys. The first one we're looking at is suspension. We are wanting to move away from out-of-school suspensions and into, when our kids are out-of-school suspended, they will go to the academy. And this is to allow restorative care to happen. So we know the research is telling us that out-of-school suspensions do not work. The students they're going home and they're literally playing video games and they're doing whatever they want. I love the parent that says, no, they have to do this, this, and this. I love you. But for the most part, a lot of our students are just allowed to do whatever on an out-of-school suspension instead of allowing us to provide restorative care. So on the day that an incident happens, typically a parent has to come pick up the kid to allow for some de-escalation, and we will out-of-school suspend on that day. But then they will know, I'm going to report to the academy for restorative care. Restorative care embraces 3 philosophies: reflection, so that they reflect on what happened, they have to recover from their action, and they have to restore themselves to the community, because there's been a harm of some kind. So that's the out-of-school suspension piece. We also add an appeals process. It was referenced in our old suspension policy, but there was actually never an appeals process created. And so I just wrote one up for you. Searches and seizures. We are looking for school administrators to be able to destroy confiscated materials like a vape instead of giving them back. And so that's only on non-criminal things. So on criminal items, it has to be turned over to BJ and law enforcement. But
The recommendation from BJ on that was what? Why did he recommend we do that?
I can't remember exactly, but I'll tell you, the keeping of a vape and the storage of those things, people aren't coming to get them, or they are coming to get them, and it's kind of a nasty process when you're taking away. And for me, I know in the caretaking realm, I do not want to turn back over a vape to a high school kid, middle school kid, like, here you go, here's the product I just took away from you.
There was no official process for that. What
There
happened
hasn't been a
was
process at all.
informally, they were given back to parents if parents so chose. So, with that said, at the end of the year, there was oftentimes significant additions that were then.
There has
made
been
that
no
were
process of
recommended.
check-in, check-out materials, and that's just, I'm not looking to return
And
this.
it's a relatively new issue.
It
You know,
is.
3 years ago, this didn't exist. 3 years ago, it was, you had a lighter and a pack of cigarettes,
Mhm.
right?
Or marijuana.
We know that those things are relatively easy to get rid of. These vapes, they look different, and they're made from different materials that you just can't. So,
But you shouldn't give them back to them anyway.
Right.
I mean,
So we're looking at for school administrators, we ever destroy those things, we don't want
Yeah.
to keep them, let's get rid of them, throw away the pack of cigarettes, throw away the vape.
Does it matter how old the student is?
It would be a student in our school, so it captured them all the way until graduation. Yeah, it doesn't matter 18.
Okay.
That's or 16 at that point, so, yeah.
because they're on off
this
campus.
really,
Right.
honestly, part of this is not having our own police force. The police wouldn't say, oh yeah, we'd like to give you back here, you know.
That's the lens that
The
DJ
jewel,
looks in, that
here you
allows
go.
us to look a little differently, yeah.
Here, honey,
Here's your
here's-
stuff back.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the first person that complains that we throw away their kid's vape that they paid $60 for.
I don't know, I don't know.
I don't expect that.
It may happen, but I think
Yeah.
we're fully prepared to talk about what
But
caretaking
yeah, I mean,
looks like.
it is what it is. It's the rules,
Yeah.
they're published, and
Yeah.
we either follow them or we don't go to that school.
Yes, right. The next one is e-cigarettes and vapes. We learned through multiple trainings throughout the year, e-cigarettes and vapes are a major issue. And they can also house not just nicotine products, but marijuana, you know, anything else that kind of goes in there, methamphetamine, anything can be put into that vape. And it is a major hassle, not a hassle, it's a major hazard for kids. They do not know what they're doing when they're putting that stuff in. And so we would like to deem e-cigarettes and vapes drug paraphernalia because there's no way to determine. And so we have changed the wording to include e-cigarettes and vapes to drug paraphernalia. Because of that.
Say something.
No, I gotta think about it.
So I think what this
I knew-
allows
I knew
us to
because I
do.
saw your face.
Yeah, I gotta think about
The
this.
lawyer over
I don't
here,
know.
yeah.
So I think what this allows us to do is to make it matter. Previously, it was treated as if it was a tobacco product. A tobacco product has traditionally been a Saturday school or a brief placement at the academy. When I say brief, a day or two, or maximum 3 for repeat offenders. And the reality too is tobacco products are different because they're not a tool. This is a tool. And this tool can be used for so many different things that it essentially has become a potential tool to quickly emit drugs into your system. So we can't say, are you using it for tobacco or are you using it for this? We don't know. So we're just going to assume that it's a drug paraphernalia piece. We also feel like that's going to give us some real teeth in rooting those things out of our school community. And to be honest with you, as a principal last year and this year, I wouldn't describe it as a pervasive issue. The kids that were smoking cigarettes before, 3, 4, 5 years ago, the percentage of kids, probably close to the kids that, we don't have any hard data on this, probably close to the amount of kids that are using a vape. They just switched. With that said, the number of kids that were potentially using a cigarette inappropriately versus a vape, far different, because the vape allows for that to occur. That's really what this is about, is it's eliminating the potential risk, that high risk of a tool that didn't exist.
The next one in middle school and high school is the implementation of 45-day placements for kids that have harmed another through a physical fight or through a drug usage. It can also be a threat. It's in the matrix if you look through there. A bomb threat of some kind that they're coming and it's false. But those major infractions where you are literally harming another child in the building through touch or through drug usage. So.
Okay, I want to ask something on that. Let's say a bomb threat.
Yeah.
Okay. Those kids are not turned over, those students not turned to call the police? Is the police not involved at all? If a bomb
If they
threat or
had it,
something?
right, if it is legit and that kid feels scared and that kid is calling the police and we're looking through these things, but let's say they are doing it in a menacing way to inhibit the educational environment of a kid, and we're able to sort those kids out. It happens very rarely. But in the instance that they create panic and havoc in our
Yes.
schools, but I
What you're saying is it's a legal issue.
It's a legal issue
Yes.
to me.
And
Is that not
then-
correct?
Right, no, you're right.
And because it's a legal issue, that's our implementation of 45 days. We have to do something about that, not just with legal, but also, why are you calling in a bomb threat? Why do you feel the need to do this? And we need to address that. And we believe in restorative consequences. So when you come for 45 days, guess what you get to do? Reflect, recover, and restore yourself, because you made a major harm to your community when you do that. So I walked through one myself several years ago, and it creates panic and havoc. And what happens is you instill fear in everybody else around you. Where the kids in the building are scared to come to school, they feel the sense of, oh my gosh, my school isn't safe anymore, when it is totally made up and false. And the kid did it on purpose, just to, strike panic in people. And those kids need help just as much as anybody else. So, the next one is hate language. It's just added as an infraction. In fact, when a student gets in trouble, they will suffer consequences just like anyone else, but we've just added as an infraction in and of itself. We've also added the care covenant. A care covenant is a care team meeting when a kid is getting in trouble that could possibly receive suspension for an infraction, that we walk through a true care process with that kid. We implemented it district-wide. We piloted them this year, and it talks about, when the kid's feeling upset, unsafe, how can we go to future goals for the student? This team of people is wrapping their arms around a kid and saying, what are we going to do differently for you? Versus keeping these repeated suspensions or repeated infractions. What are we going to do different? And in the care meetings, it's really cool to ever experience one, is the kid can also turn and say, I want to ask you, Mom, they have to, it's part of the process. Mom and Dad, I'm asking you for help with this. My care leader, I'm asking you for help from this. My counselor, I'm asking for help for you. They have to go through that process. It's very intentional. And so that's part of the process we want to add to the disciplinary consequences. And then the new format is it's for reader ease, because the old one was a little difficult. Now, I know that Wes talked to you about our drug policies, but we are not ready to move forward because KSBA is still reviewing those, so I have nothing for drug policies at this time.
Before we put the drug policies in, we'll have that conversation.
Yes.
So essentially, we have no changes to the drug policy.
Hate language is an infraction, does it?
So it was
have to be
previously not
heard
included.
by staff, or is it alleged is still an infraction, or is it just like spousal abuse that he hit me, and so that they're mandatory to take it?
So there's an investigation to kind of see what's going on, just with anything. Bullying's the same way. We take the word from one student. There's an active investigation that happens from the assistant principal or the counseling office to see what's happening. So with hate language, it really needs to have been verbal or written in intent to harm another individual. That's what the definition of hate language is to harm someone else. And so through the investigation, we kind of weed out what really happened. Any other questions?
This, just one, so this document here, the new version, is this student-specific?
Students.
Meaning, because as I was kind of glancing through some of the pages of it, so for instance, the one that deals with cigarettes and vapes, it talks about that students are not permitted. That Nelson County schools are tobacco and vape-free campuses, not just the school building themselves, but the campus property. But that also applies to adults as well, staff, as well as people that are visiting the campuses.
Right.
So I was just curious, I mean, this document here, is this specific to students?
Yes.
Okay.
It does talk about staff commitments to education there, but
Mm-hmm.
if an adult would like me to give them a restore for 3 days, I'd like to give them that too, through using vapes in our schools, but it is more towards student
Okay.
conduct.
Okay. Well, and that's what
I'm
I,
on basketball night.
I know. I could work in the parking lots.
Yeah, you could work right, set your shop up in.
I thought it was student-focused, but I did see the piece about the staff care as well, and so.
It's kind of our commitment, and it's also their rights. In a code of conduct, you have to have several pieces. You will notice on page 3 of the student conduct, this is a new letter that's going in. It kind of describes community-centered care, but we have to have certain pieces that go in. It also talks about Title IX. It talks about rights from the Supreme Court. You have to have those things in a code of conduct, hence the staff rights and
Gotcha.
student rights as well. All right, that's all for me if there's no questions.
Got it. Thank you.
Do you want to drop it too?
Oh,
That's fine, you can keep it.
Okay, the next item, Robin Hanloser, you had 2 employee evaluation plan and abolished job descriptions.
Ah, goodness. Hey, everybody. Let me back up there. All right, so this is just the continuing of bringing this to fruition in March.
It's another example of going 0 to 1.
In March, we came to you and said, hey, we want to revise 100 job descriptions and make sure that our salary schedules support each other and that there's an alignment there. So we made it through that process. And then in May, I showed you just one classified example of evaluation and one certified example of where we were going with evaluation. And really, we haven't moved away from, we are still within the reg. We haven't changed anything that we're doing that causes us to have to get anything like reassurances from KDE. But what we have done is we've done a lot of format changing, and we have just made some additional, what they call formative sources of evidence, which that was already in the reg anyway. So in other words, we've just made it better and made it align. So at the board meeting, we'll be seeking approval of our community-centered evaluation plan. Obviously, you'll have time between now and then to look through this. The pieces, I want to just focus on this for just a moment. The ones that I've colored in the cyan color are those that are complete. The ones that are yellow, we still have some tweaking that we're doing to those. So this is what we talked about the last time. I think I showed you one of those of each type. And then we do have to have all certified employees have to be trained in the evaluation plan. And so what you see beyond what I showed you last time is just the slides and the documentation that I'll use for the training, the plan itself. So nothing tonight, but seeking approval next at the board meeting.
What is that?
It's all the mental health leaders in the district.
Oh, okay.
That Robin will be with.
Okay.
All right, you okay on this one? Can I go on? If I just close this out, Carla, and then go back to you?
So this is our second conversation with you guys on this for a couple of reasons. One is the way it's set up from the state. It's not our year to review this, but we're reviewing it because we feel like we're making significant changes to it. And
And they've been involved, so I've been in contact several times with Christine Meisberger, who does great work, and she's been reviewing this with me and making sure that we're, within the reg. Okay, so let's see here. All right, the following jobs, this is a great segue since I just talked about those 100 job revisions. And through that process, we did have the following jobs that have, they're just obsolete or they were redundant, and so we are, those will be on the consent agenda to be abolished.
so really, I think this is another example of us wanting to continue to tend to job descriptions and think about the evolving nature of them, the conversations we're having around them. And some of these are really just a matter of bureaucracy over time, and we need to change from this title to this title because whatever state being changed. Other cases, they really, the positions were reallocated in other places. In other cases, the positions no longer exist.
Like we had a custodian 1 and a custodian 2, so it was redundant. We didn't need a custodian 1.
Now we have a facility.
And now we have a facility lead. So we took the custodian 2, then your facility lead, abolished custodian 1. Those types of things. All right, any questions? All right, Carla, I don't know, we don't need this, so.
So we were going to take just a short break.
Thank you, lady.
Just because the next stage is, we do have to read the, I think it's 97 procedure aloud. And there may be some questions that come up. So it could take anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. 15 minutes would mean that Carla was reading 4 every, it would be 6 every minute. So it's probably, I guess 15 minutes would be miraculous. Probably more realistic would be like
I've had faith in Carla.
30 minutes. So we'll take a 5-minute break.
How fast she can. She can probably talk you now.
You were watching your train. Somebody would like an ice cream sandwich or anything?
Oh,
We
those
have-
ice cream sandwiches are
Yes,
so good.
Ice cream sandwich.
That means you're not going to
Sounds like it.
Okay, I would say,
I don't get to
since I'm
eat
with you
ice
guys,
cream
that
tonight.
my daughter's here tonight.
You go for it, just do it anyway, with chocolate on it. Get it, throw it.
We also have one mint
With her
chocolate
9
jelly.
months constant.
I'm so excited she's actually gonna spend the night. She never does that.
Dilly dilly.
It's mint, it's delicious.
Robin's had a dilly ball.
I did.
Dilly ball.
Stole one out yesterday.
Delicious. Dilly dilly. Thank you.
Rebecca, you good?
What are the choices?
I think you're down to what?
I did dilly bar.
Ice cream
Don't get a dilly bar because
Never mind.
that one took long.
Dilly guy.
Just the ice cream sandwich.
Nah, I'll pass, thank you.
Oh, I never pass
We
that
had
one.
Snickers, ice cream bars. And we bought these for the local planning committee because of the 7th meeting. By the 7th meeting, we felt like they deserved something from their volunteers, for their service. The bureaucracy in the DSP was really painful. It was probably my fault because it was my first DSP. I wanted to go through it the right way and really think critically on 7 meetings. So,
It left an impossible task here.
Fried LPC member food.
Carla, will you read through the records one, or you, will that have to wait?
The records?
The one that's.
The one
waiting
that's
on
in
answer
green?
for.
yeah.
I won't read through it.
Nothing made us happier
In
than
a
board
minute,
meetings.
yeah.
Hurry, you gotta keep this on style.
Co-workers trying to tell me that you're in a meeting, or you're going to be in a meeting
Osborne did an ice
where
cream
you're
run
afraid there's
one
going to be
day.
a lot
It
of
was hot.
contentious conversation going on.
It works.
You bring Tootsie Rolls.
So they just, yeah.
They're
Busy swallowing and.
Want some ice cream?
I'm all right.
So next time we have Tootsie Rolls laying out all around, it's gonna be attended.
That's brilliant.
He
said
I've actually done that
Oh.
before, taking 50 rows and put it on the table. Yeah.
He probably stores them all, every time. I don't know how he does it.
So it's what?
Mountain
Drink
Dew at
Mountain Dew
nighttime.
all the time.
I can understand drinking them in like, maybe around 11, 12 o'clock, but not at 7 o'clock at night.
And I can fall asleep standing up.
Got your favorite track life is his father.
I'm like I'm like a baby. You put me in a car and drive me around a little bit, obviously.
Yeah, but who's doing the driving?
No, like,
Oh, okay. I was hoping so.
that's why I let her drive, so I can take naps.
That is why I drive, so my husband can take a nap. It really is.
Isn't he retired?
Huh? Is he retired? No,
Well, he's not. I thought he was.
no.
She wouldn't laugh.
He had no plans
I guess
to.
he'd pick your poison, right?
He had no plans to. He said he don't want to die. And he's got 2 or 3 friends that they died a year or so after they quit work. He's a plastic engineer.
Yeah, you know.
He said when he retired, he would teach a class in what was it? He told me what we had. Lauren knows what he was doing. Yep. Plastics processing.
You guys ready to get started?
So, just as a matter of, we have to read these aloud. Right? So there are 2 readings. This is the first. And these will be on the consent agenda in 2 weeks.
So I do have a couple here that are highlighted in red that we are still waiting on KSBA, their legal team to review. Those are the drug policies that Robin talked about. So we will skip over those.
I think it's important too, just to remind you guys, KSBA makes a number of recommendations. So you can see recommended by KSBA or recommended by us. So,
The majority of these are just because of legal changes.
and any changes we make, KSBA also has to review.
Right.
On your mark, set, go.
All right.
And the
So
clock begins.
policy number 1.1, legal status of the board. This is a legal change adding protections covering pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions to state employment discrimination law. 1.11, general powers and duties of the board. This is a legal change to remove the category persistently low achieving and replace with school identified for comprehensive support and improvement as it relates to the district's plan of innovation. 1.2, board member qualifications. This is all new language. 1.3, board vacancy. This is a legal change to change the process for filing a board vacancy from a person appointed by the commissioner to a person approved by a majority vote of the remaining board members of the local board. 1.821, board member expense reimbursement. This is a legal change increasing the per diem amount a board member may receive for reimbursement. 2.31, school resource officer. New policy provides local boards utilizing an SRO directly employed by the district shall adopt defining roles and expectations. 2.421, election of school council members. This is a legal change clarifying that a newly elected school council parent member who is to provide a letter from the cabinet may serve pending a receipt of a cleared check. 2.4241, school council policies, revisions to 701 KAR Chapter 5, Section 140, affect the process for a school to be included in the District of Innovation application. 2.4331, this is removing language that allows staffing funds to be used for non-staffing expenses. 3.11, hiring. Legal change to clarify employment records check requirements. 3.113, equal employment opportunity. Senate Bill 18 amends KRS Chapter 344 by adding protections covering pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions. 3.123 leaves and absences. This is a legal change stating specific requirements for the Board of Education and their compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and any other federal law. 3.12322 FMLA. This is a change rolling 12-month period measured backward from the date of an employee uses an FMLA leave. 3.1233 maternity leave. This is a legal change stating specific requirements for Board of Education and their compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and other federal law. 3.1234 extended disability leave. This is a legal change stating specific requirements for the Board of Education and their compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. 3.125 expense reimbursement. This is the change of language to allow for a per diem and mileage rate to be set at the beginning of each fiscal year. 3.1322 gifts. Remove the requirement for no restrictions and increase the limit that can be handled through the school activity funds. 3.1327, the use of tobacco, alternative nicotine, or vapor products. House Bill 11 requires local boards to adopt and implement policies that prohibit the use of any tobacco product, alternative nicotine product, or vapor product to all persons and at all times or in all property of the board in school-related trips and activities. 3.133 duties. Legal change related to pregnancy, childbirth, or other or related medical conditions. 3.162 harassment discrimination. This is a legal change related to pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions. 3.17 termination, non-renewal, or separation by employee. We're just removing the March 15th date there. 3.19 professional development. This is a legal change to require training for how to respond to an active shooter situation. 3.21 hiring. This is a legal change to clarify employment record check requirements. 3.212 equal employment opportunities. Senate Bill 18 amends KRS Chapter 344 by adding protections against covering pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions. 3.2233 maternity leave. Strike the following sentence: paid leave may be taken if the eligible employee has paid sick leave days remaining. 3.22322 FMLA. This is just the classified policy each year changing to rolling 12-month period measured backward from the date an employee uses an FMLA leave. 3.225 expense reimbursement. Change the language to allow for a per diem and mileage rate to be set at the beginning of each fiscal year. 3.2322, remove the requirement for no restrictions and increase the limit that can be handled through school activity funds. 3.2327, use of tobacco, alternative nicotine, or vapor products. House Bill 11 requires local boards to adopt and implement policies that prohibit the use of any tobacco product, alternative nicotine product, or vape product. 3.233 duties. Senate Bill 18 amends KRS Chapter 344 by adding protections covering pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions. You hear some of these similar over and over again. Some are for certified, some are for classified. 3.2711 non-renewal. Remove the March 15th date to give us flexibility in meeting state deadlines. 3.29 staff development. Senate Bill 1 amends KRS 156095 to require training for how to respond to an active shooter situation. 3.6 volunteers. Senate Bill amends KRS 16380 to state that the superintendent may require a state and national background check and a clear can check. 4.3111 district issuance of checks, update policy to match current weekly payment procedures. 4.32 model procurement code purchasing. This is a legal change increasing the aggregate contract amount maximum for small purchase to $30,000. 4.6 investments. This is a legal change that amends the requirement for investments. 4.61 gifts and donations. This is a legal change that provides for restricted gifts and donations to the board to be used in furtherance of lawful school safety, security, and student health purposes. 5.23 energy management. Senate Bill 164 repeals KRS 16325, which had set energy reporting requirements for the Kentucky Pollution Prevention Center. 5.31 rental application and contract. House Bill 11 requires local boards to adopt and implement policies that prohibit the use of any tobacco product, alternative nicotine product, or vapor product. 5.4 Safety. Senate Bill 1 creates a new section of KRS 158 that requires the superintendent to appoint a district-level school administrator to serve as the district school safety coordinator and primary point of contact for public school safety and security functions. 5.41 Fire drills. This is a change in language that drills are to be made available to the superintendent. 5.48 Weapons. House Bill 328 amends KRS 527070 to specify that the current exception for adults with a firearm lawfully stored in a locked vehicle on school property does not apply to students. 5.5 Security. Senate Bill 1 creates a new section of KRS 158 that requires the superintendent to send verification to the state school security marshal and KDE that all schools within the district have completed the school security risk assessment for the previous year. 6.221 Vehicle operators' use of tobacco and other substances. House Bill 11 requires all local boards to adopt and implement policies that prohibit the use of any tobacco product, alternative nicotine product, or vapor product. 6.343 Food and other consumable items. House Bill 11 requires all local boards to adopt and implement policies that prohibit the use of any tobacco product, alternative, or vapor product. 8.113 Graduation requirements. Legal amendment to change graduation requirements for students entering 9th grade in the 2018-19, 2019-2020, or the 2020-2021, I think I said that wrong, school years. 8.14 Guidance. Legal change creates a new section of KRS 158 to incorporate trauma-informed practices in counseling and mental health services, and requires the superintendent to report on the number and placement of school counselors in the district. 8.221 Grading. This is a legal change that removes the requirement for end-of-course exams that count toward a student's final grade in a course. 9.11 School attendance area. This is a change to who the request is to be made to. It would go to the principal rather than the superintendent, and a change in the due date from March 31st rather than January 31st. 9.111 Transfers and withdrawals. This is a new policy with requirements for transfers and withdrawals. 9.123 Student absences and excuses. This is to change to include description of medical, remove lice, and include health decisions by school nurse and nurse practitioner. 9.126 Students and military families. This is a legal change that allows children in military families who are transferring to Kentucky on an official military order to pre-enroll in a school district with official documentation. That next policy in green, we're waiting on KSBA. 9.2 Student welfare and wellness. This, revising to include updated information on nutrition, physical activity, and education, and social emotional development. 9.22 Student health and safety. This is a legal change to include recognition of signs and symptoms of possible mental illness for all school employees with job duties, requiring direct contact with students in grades 6 through 12, and modified suicide training requirements. 9.223, we're waiting on KSBA. 9.224, emergency medical treatment, legal change to include medications to be administered pursuant to a student's seizure action plan. 9.33, fundraising activities. We removed the door-to-door solicitation.
We remove or add?
We added that it's prohibited.
Oh, okay.
9.36 and 9.423, we're waiting on KSBA. 9.4232, tobacco, alternative nicotine, or vapor products. This is House Bill 11 that requires all local boards to adopt and implement policies that prohibit the use of any tobacco product, alternative nicotine product, or vapor product. 9.425, assault and threats of violence. This is a legal change that requires principals to provide written notice to all students, parents, and guardians of students within 10 days of the first instructional day of the school year of the provisions of KRS 508078. 9.429 threat assessments. This is a legal change requiring districts to have a threat assessment policy. Those next two, we're waiting on KSBA. 10.5 visitors to the school. This is a legal change regarding tobacco products, alternative nicotine products, or vapor products as it relates to the community. All of those, minus the ones that are highlighted in red, will be on the consent agenda for a second reading at the regular June board meeting. The others we'll have a first reading on. Procedures only require one reading, so we'll read through those tonight. Y'all are good to keep going? Okay, 1.3 AP2 board vacancy forms. House Bill 22 amends KRS 160.190 to change the process for filling a board vacancy as it relates to advertisement. 1.3 AP21 application for board vacancy. House Bill 22 amends KRS 160.190 to change the process for filling a board vacancy. 1.6 AP2 requests to examine and/or copy district records. Senate Bill 230 provides a public agency may accept open records requests via email. 2.31 AP1 school resource officers. A new section in KRS Chapter 158 provides local boards utilizing a SRO directly employed by the district shall adopt policies and procedures stating the purpose of the SRO program with clearly defined roles and expectations. 3.123 AP2 leave request form and affidavit. An affidavit is required for use of personal leave, emergency leave, or for use of sick leave. 3.12322 AP21 request for family and medical leave of absence. We just add address and employee phone number, employee number. 3.162 AP2 harassment discrimination reporting form. This is a legal change regarding limitations to pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions. 3.17 AP21 employee exit form. This is an addition of and removal of items that are required to be turned in, such as keys, fobs, computer, Chromebook. 3.19 AP23 district training requirements. Senate Bill 1 creates a new section of KRS 158, requires school safety coordinator training program, required training for principals to complete school security risk assessment, required training for SROs, amendments to suicide prevention training, and required training for an active shooter situation. 3.223 AP2 leave request form and affidavit. An affidavit is required for use of leave. 3.29 AP23 district training requirements. This is the classified version of that, requiring school safety coordinator training program. 5.411 AP1 building lockdowns. Schools are required to conduct building lockdowns according to policy 5.411 and documented under procedure 5.41 AP2. 5.5 AP1 building security. Senate Bill 1 requires certain security measures to be implemented no later than July 1st of 2022. 7.11 AP1 meal programs. KDE School Nutrition advises local boards to set adult meal prices annually according to the Food Nutrition Services formula. 7.13 AP1 RFP of school food service. House Bill 26 increases the maximum for small purchase to $30,000. 8.13451 AP1 federal programs. Title I violation complaint procedure. Legal change that requiring a complaint process for programs under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965 as amended by the Every Student Succeeds Act. 8.22 AP1 promotion and retention. This is, we'll just provide clarity on the process for skipping a grade level. 8.22 AP2 acceleration retention form. This is a new form that will be used along with 8.22 AP1. 9.11 AP21. This is an application for out-of-area request. Just a change in date to apply from January 31st to March 31st, and change in who approves the request, DPP to the principal. The form is now available online. 9.12 AP22, application for out-of-district request, same as the out-of-area. 9.224 AP1, emergency medical care procedures, revisions to include medications to be administered pursuant to a student's seizure action plan. 9.33 AP21 fundraiser activities. Requirements for booster clubs and school activity funds have been updated in the Kentucky Revised Accounting Procedures. 9.36 AP1 school-related student trips. This adds language that teachers shall complete the online school-related trip request form. 9.36 AP212 educational and extracurricular trip invoice. This is just a revision to the charge per mile for the bus usage. The next two we will review at the June board meeting. 9.425 AP22 assaults and threats of violence. The Student Safety and Resiliency Act of 2019 creates a new section of KRS 158 requiring the principal to provide written notice to all students, parents, and guardians within 10 days of the first instructional day of each school year. 9.429 AP1 Threat Assessment Team Procedures. Senate Bill 1 creates a new section of KRS 158 that requires districts to have threat assessment team procedures. 9.434 AP2 will be reviewed at the June board meeting. 10.11 AP21 Public Records Notice. Senate Bill 230 provides that a public agency may accept open records requests via email. 10.5 AP1 Visitors to the School. This is a legal change requiring visitors to report to the front office of the building, provide ID, and state the purpose of the visit.
17 minutes.
Strong work, Carly.
And she reads really well, doesn't she? Good job, Carly.
So all of the procedure ones, the second half of that, they've had their one required readings. All of those are ready to go into effect as of July 1st.
Yes.
Okay. The other ones, though, the second reading will be at our meeting later this month.
So we'll have some on the consent agenda for a second reading, and those ones that we're still waiting from KSBA, we'll have to read through those.
The red or the green ones?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
We didn't expect you guys to bring your books today, so we'll have to push this off, because I didn't send a reminder.
Well, with all the policies and procedures as well, it's maybe a good.
But I thought what we had was our last one at that last.
So that's 5 chapters.
No, I'm talking about what we had last time when we said this is our last one. It wasn't during a board meeting.
You're talking about pride teams?
Yes,
Yeah.
pride teams, yes, that was our last one.
So the Pride Team work will continue next year to just look different.
Yeah.
And I can't express enough how important it is that our conversation around this continues, because it's going to get better as we continue the conversation.
Okay, we will suspend the deep learning chapter 6, and we'll go right to the guest comment. First of all, do we have any guests? And I'd again like to thank everyone for their attendance. And since we do not have any guests, meeting adjourned.
Motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was doing so well. Did I hear a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. Second? Thank you.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I like to beat this, is what I do.
Do you want me to hit the button?
Yes. Thank you.
Let's